welcome along. Come in. Sally's filming today as we come into the 4X Annex for a slightly different video. As you guys know, I've been recovering from a bit of illness. My foot's still hurting. So I've been joined by Janet, the dog, down here as well as Sally.
Hi, Janet.
As we have a quick tour of the sim. So you guys will know the 4X Annex, of course. We're going to have a quick look at what I use to do racing. So as a sim racer, what I use to stream, and then I'll have a quick look around the 4X Annex as well to have a look at all the stuff that you petrol heads will like as well. But first thing, of course, we'll have a look at the sim. So you guys know this view probably as well as I do if you watch the start of my videos. Overall, this is the sim, but we're going to break down bit by bit what it is that I use and why I use it, why I've chosen it, and whether I think it's any good or not. So the first thing, one of the most important things we're going to look at is down here. This is the direct drive wheelbase, and this is a Simucube 2 Pro. So this is the 25 Newton meter version of the Simucube. So Simucube 2 Pro, and it's absolutely fantastic. It runs at 360 hertz at the moment on iRacing. And this is basically, if you're not sure, this is what connects the simulator to the steering wheel and gives me all the feedback that I need to make sure that I know what's going on. You've got loads of adjustability in there in terms of damping and how much feel you get through it. So absolutely fantastic. And it has a quick release, which is also fantastic. And I'm going to just quickly show you that now. So if I pull this pin out, really simple, like that, and then I can take this off, for example. So this then leads me, of course, onto these. So this is my main rim. This is a Cube Controls F Pro. You see this is all stickered up with the stuff that I need on there. So you've got traction control, brake bias, ABS, all that kind of stuff on there. And of course it's color coded as well. You can change the colors on that. So this sort of fits my theme. And on the back there, hopefully you can see there's a Simucube quick release there, which is what made me able to quickly take it off. We have a magnetic connector down here. So if I grab this, so this is how it connects. Don't know if you guys can see that. I'll just wait for it to focus. There you go, really simply. That then connects into that. And then you can just carry on. Actually, I'm not going to put that rim there because as well as that, we'll turn that one off. We have other rims, of course, including this. This is my backup rim. And I tend to use this one more for cars that move around a bit more. So if I need to be feeding through the wheel and that kind of thing, I want a round rim. And this is a Sparco. This is just a 300mm Sparco rim that you'd get even if you're just on a race car rather than a simulator. And that then attaches by these bolts to this base plate. And this is an iRacing B16 large button box. So this has fewer things on it than the Cube Controls, but still plenty. If you're just driving MX-5s or Clio, something like that, this is the one I use. It's a lot heavier, so you're getting a bit more damping. Obviously, it's a bigger wheel as well. So typically you have to run higher Newton meters on your direct drive to take into account that this is going to have, more mass means you have to take into account the extra inertia and the distance of the how far apart your hands are. But this one actually attaches from a different cable, so this comes in here as well. I'm not sure if you guys will be able to see that. So a bit more robust. Rather than a magnetic connection, you screw that in. This has been a bit unreliable, but generally it's okay. So that can then go on there. And again, before I forget, I'll put a pin in there because you don't want to forget that there's no pin in it when you go. There's a third rim as well. So if I can ask Sally to just spin around for a second here, and this one's really, really simple. So this is just literally just a £15 rim off eBay. I've put a Simucube quick release on the back there, but there's no buttons, there's nothing on there at all. So in order to use this rim, of course, you need to have some way of changing gear. And that's why we have a manual gearbox. As well as a manual gearbox, if you come down here, Sal, I'll just move that out of the way. Down there are my pride and joy. Down here, we have the Asetek Invicta pedals. Now, I asked you guys on a poll what you felt was the most important part of your rig, and by far the majority of you said pedals, and I couldn't agree more. So these are definitely the biggest part of my rig. The one thing that I really wouldn't want to change. On the left there, we have a clutch pedal because we need that for the manual gearboxes. And of course, the two-stage braking with the Thorpe technology and the accelerator. And so if you want to just move over here we have a Thrustmaster TH8A manual gearbox. Now this does have a sequential mode, but I only use it for manual gearboxing. Very rare I use that. I tend to only use it for oval driving. But that's there just to add a bit more realism. If you're wondering why it's on the left-hand side, of course I'm in the UK, so our cars over here are right-hand drive, and so typically the gear shift will be on the left. But that's the the Thrustmaster TH8A. The pedals down there, like I say, they're Asetek Invictas, and that then leads me, you see how that's mounted to an aluminium profile plate there. That then leads me onto the rig itself. So down here, if you'll avoid the dog, this is another really, really solid investment. Another massive part. She's all right coming in. Janet's going to show us. This is a ProSimrig PSR-1, no licking. Attached to that, without a adjustable slider, just mounted directly onto the rig, is a Sparco Rev Q seat. So this is actually a really comfortable seat. So if you want to come up here. So really comfortable. It's rock hard, but because I use this for doing the endurance races, it's amazing how comfortable it is. When you sat in it for ages, if I used the seat from my everyday car on this rig, after a couple of hours I'd feel really, really uncomfortable. But this, for some reason, being rock hard is exactly what you need, and being hardly any flex means I can get the full 100 kilos of force into the brake pedal that I need for the Aseteks as well. So as well as the seat, all that sort of thing, this sim rig also includes a couple of little extras here. If I just move the iPad out of the way, you can see here that we have a keyboard mount, and on the edge here, I don't know if you can see, there's a little bit of padding there. A little bit of padding, so that when I swing that against the wall, it doesn't actually make a difference, doesn't hurt it. We have a mouse pad there as well. So the keyboard and mouse that we use, they're not even branded. You'll see there's no logos or anything. They're cheap and nasty things from eBay, but they do the job. If I'm going to invest in anything, I'm never going to be investing in keyboard and mouse. But yeah, so they're just there to do the job. As well as while we're in this area, you'll notice this big panic button. This is just here. So if I'm heading towards a wall, or if I see a guest who's driving is heading towards a wall, I can quickly hit that. And because the Simucube is capable of 25 Newton meters of torque, that then cuts that off. But yeah, back to this seat. On the back here of the seat, you'll see I've actually put my branding on there. Just a big Damien Cross Racing logo. And then down here, there's driving is my therapy, which is a nod to Tacona. So lovely people at Tacona, Lewis and Grace, raising awareness and money for mental health charities. And you'll often see me wearing Tacona t-shirts and that kind of thing as well. So as well as that, I need to hear what's going on when I'm driving, as well as being able to interact with the car. And so use these Chinese Tiberia, I think it's pronounced. They're all fraying, but you know what, they do the job. I'm someone who doesn't like to change things if they don't need changing. If they're still working, they're looking a bit tatty. This goes into the computer via a USB, and on there as well, you may have seen there's a little light, so I can mute things, I can change the volumes and that there. Really simple, doesn't have to be anything too weird. I don't like using wireless things because sometimes you can lose connection, so that goes straight into the computer via a USB. And there is also a microphone on there. I don't actually use that for my streaming because it's not good enough quality. So I use the microphone just if I'm on Discord. I've got my teammates on there. I've got Fleming and Baruch and all those guys. So there's all that. Now, you'll also notice, as well as my headphones, you'll have noticed there's some external speakers down here as well. So there's one of these on each side. There's also, don't know if you can see, Sal, if you come around here, there is a subwoofer underneath the chair. So why have I got external speakers if I use headphones? It's because if I have a guest around who wants a bit of advice, wants a bit of instruction on how to drive a race car, then I need to be able to hear what they hear. So rather than having headphones, I can actually use the external thing. But I don't actually use that for me. If I'm driving, I just use my headphones. Coming up here, so you'll also notice that there's my button box. So as well as all the buttons on the rim, so you see there's loads on the F Pro, loads and loads of buttons and switches on there. Loads on there, and of course we've got a keyboard full of buttons. But over here, this is what we're interested in. So these are some of the extra controls, controlling the volume of intercom, towing. Here I've got my wipers, I can switch the wipers on. When I start a race, first thing I do, switch the ignition on and then start the engine. I've also got quick text things like we've got thanks there, so that's in green, so I can quickly notice that, and all that kind of stuff. So I've just got an external button box. That was just off, I think that was off eBay or Etsy or something like that. Just gives me a few more options on there as well. And then while we're in this section, beneath the manual shifter, the TH8A, we then have a drinks holder. So again, Cheap and nasty thing off eBay, but it does the job. And just below that, if we go down, you'll see a picture of a dog. Now this is the logo, you may recognise this logo, for SimHound. So that's a magnetic logo there attached to the monitor stand. So the monitor stand is actually made by SimHound, so it's not part of the rig, the PSR-1 itself. And if you, I don't know if you can see, Sal, if you want to come a bit higher up, follow that up, past all these cables. You see up here, it's not very clear on camera, but this is actually a dark turquoise, because this is actually customized to the color scheme for my rig. So SimHound can make your monitor mount, or even a whole rig, in whatever color you want. So my monitor mount is based on that. And as we passed along there, you'll see I've got a couple of powered USB hubs, just to make sure that the important stuff in here, the ones in red, I don't know if you can notice on here, but these are listed in red. All the red stuff goes into a red USB on the PC, the 10 times speed one, and then we've got the blue underneath that, Sal. There's then a secondary one for the stuff that isn't quite so important, like the, well, I don't even know what's in there, but stuff that isn't quite so important, but they still go into the USB on the computer, but not necessarily into such a powerful hub. And how that all happens is, I've been working a bit on the cable management, and you see obviously it all goes into the hub there. Again, it's all labelled, of course, but then it comes into this umbilical cord, as I call it, that comes over here, and then if you look at that gap between the two grey boxes, hang on, I'll just help Sally out by moving a shelf here. She's small, she's not that small. These then come into these boxes here, and then they separate depending on what direction I want them to go in. So if we open this, I'll just move my spare pair of gloves there, and we'll have a look in one of these boxes. So you see there's another USB hub in there, so that's got things like your mouse and keyboard going in, but this is where all the excess wiring goes. So I'll close that one, move these across, external hard drive there, which is how I get the information from my sim racing PC to my editing one, and then there's more in there as well. So that's where all the slack goes and keeps the wiring a bit neater as well. The PC itself doesn't look very impressive, so it's just a black box. I'll put the specs up here now, so if you want to actually read through that, you can pause it and they'll be on screen now. But this is from PC Specialist. It's quite a few years old. It's had a few upgrades as we're going along, so it's a bit of a mishmash of different things, but I'll put the specs up for you guys anyway. One thing to also note, Sal, you might have to look underneath here. So there are some mounts here. Something's fallen, I think it's an Allen key. So down here, this is a metal plate that I've had to attach so that I can mount these grey plastic, and you'll see there's holes in the bottom of the grey plastic where I've mounted it to the metal. So there's a bit of engineering involved when you're a sim racer. Stuff doesn't always just come off the shelf. And over here as well, for example, where I've got the power cables, I've put some mounts on there as well, just to make sure that doesn't move. So yeah, and if you come back up, so one thing we did sort of skip over there are my gloves. So we have here some really cool IMB racing gloves. You've seen me unbox those. I don't actually use them very often. They're really cool, but after 15 minutes, they just get a bit hot compared to my usual ones, which are 3M Sim 21. So these are the 3M Sim 21. That's actually my backup old pair. I've got another pair that I use day to day. So I think that's everything I need to show you for actually being a sim racer. So if you've got all that stuff, you can sim race. But then what we also have, there's lots of other bits and bobs on here, which we'll have a look at in a sec, which help me to either stream or, sorry, Sally's pointing at something.
What's this?
You want me to look at the microphone?
Yeah.
We'll get to the microphone.
It looks cool and fancy.
It does look cool and fancy, and it really isn't. It really isn't. But we'll get to that in just a sec, because I've got a list of things I need to get through. So the next thing, of course, is, well, we had a look at the external drive. We won't have another look at that. So that's just like a couple of terabyte hard drive that I can then get my footage to go and edit. If I'm not streaming, I need to edit. So that goes there. We then have lighting. So here we go. So lighting, we have lighting like this. We have a few of these dotted about. That can obviously be made brighter or darker, depending on what sort of camera you've got or something like that. We also have just a light here, and that just uplights the ceiling just to kind of add a bit of a warmer light. Because if you just have these ones, you can get filters, but so we have that one there. We also have one just down here, Sal, just there next to the aircon. That one I don't use very often. And then we also have a third one over here. So if I turn this one on, Janet will let me. That then lights up the wall a bit better. So that's just for that, and it just helps me to pop when I'm on camera. So that has got a couple of gels over it, which have actually melted from the heat over the years. And that just kind of helps this to kind of, yeah. We also then, right, next big thing, of course, is the camera. So the camera, you'll notice there, is not your typical webcam. We have a Canon EOS M200. Now, having a Canon EOS M200, a mirrorless camera like that, means that I can produce videos and stream in low light, which is why I'm not using all of my external lights, why I've got quite a soft light for the uplight on the ceiling as well. And I have my my lighting for my external lights set quite low so it doesn't drown me out too much. But if you want to use an external camera like this, there are a couple of things that it needs to be able to do. So it needs to have an external power source. So there's a battery here. So there's a fake battery essentially inside the battery pack there. And you see that says BAT. So that then goes through the umbilical cord to power. So it can be always on. And then the other side, you'll see a cord coming out. So that's a HD cord coming out. So it can record in whatever definition I want. But also, excuse the background noise. I think the dog heard a cat. We have clean HDMI out. So clean HDMI out of a camera means that you don't get all the battery indicator and that kind of thing coming out as well. So that's the camera. Obviously it's not switched on now, and that then goes through OBS, and as well as the visuals that produces. Like Sal said, there is a cool microphone here. So this is a microphone made by a manufacturer called Fifine or something like that. Another Chinese company, I don't know. It lights up and looks pretty. I don't really care about that. I just need it to work. So you see this has got a red label on it because it's an important one, and so it goes into through the loop over around there. It then goes through into a powered USB hub or directly into a computer into a red USB port. So that's the microphone that I tend to use for talking to you guys basically a lot of the time. So if I'm streaming or producing a video, that's the one that's recording the noise. Now that gets the information to the computer slightly quicker than the camera because the camera's got a process. So I have to put a delay on the sound, otherwise you'd hear me say stuff before you saw me do it. So there's that, and that all then goes into OBS. So if you want to look on this screen here, Sal, we will open up OBS. So this is basically what I use, and you can see some when I'm streaming here. It's different views that you might see. If I go to start a stream, for example, I'll have this, you'll notice that, and then this is my in-pad. It says Elgato no signal, but that's obviously because the camera over here is not switched on at the moment. If that was switched on, then you'd see Sally filming you at the moment. So that's what I use. I use OBS, which of course is free to use. So a lot of you guys will have that as well. If we look over to the other side of the steering wheel, we then have an iPad. So why have I got an iPad? This basically acts as my fourth screen. So I use this when I'm streaming to see your chat coming in. So that's why often when I'm streaming, I'll be looking down at this angle, this side of my steering wheel, and that's because that's where your chat comes in. Another thing that we have over this side is, of course, all this on the wall. You may have seen that, thought, oh, that looks interesting. It's actually functional. So this is made of foam. So this is all foam panels with polystyrene backing. There's gaps between at the back, and that just helps to dampen the sound, stop the echo. So when I'm talking to you guys, we haven't got a wall right next to me that's going to start echoing and that kind of thing. So as well as that, I mentioned we have aircon, so I've got a remote for the aircon, so I don't have to turn around for that. And I think that's kind of everything that I need to be able to either stream or produce a video. The only other bit of extra stuff here is, of course, I have a thermometer, so I can keep an eye on what the temperature is in the 4X Annex and what the humidity is. So if I think I'm getting hot, I can have a quick reference up here to make sure that I'm not going mad, and also to make sure that it's not getting too hot in here for the PC and everything like that as well. So the last thing for us to do, we've covered me sim racing, covered the streaming, hopefully everything there. We've got monitors here as well, not too much to worry about here. Obviously triple monitors, they're 27 inch monitors, and they actually hang from the monitor stand there, which is a bit strange. So this monitor stand is set to its highest level because my monitors have to hang. The reason they have to hang is that if we mounted these plates on top, then of course this would block the inputs for the display port coming in and the power coming in. So that's why I've got it set up like that. If I upgrade my monitors at some point, because they only run 60 frames per second, if I wanted 120 frames per second monitors, it'd be a bit of a faff because I might have to completely change the way that the monitor mounts and everything's set up. So I'll quickly show you a couple of little imperfections on this as well. So these were actually bought off some guy on eBay who was a Porsche training driver at the Silverstone Porsche Experience Centre, and we've got, like over here for example, we've got little chunks taken out of it, but they still sort of work. They're a bit flimsy, but no excuses. It's still really good to have triple monitors. But yeah, while we're here looking around this section, we might as well give you a tour of the 4X Annex itself. So some of the bits that you will already be aware of outside of the sim are of course this wall here, and then this side, your names up there for the Crosscar Challenge. So this was the 2024 Crosscar Challenge. So these are just metal strips, and these are just magnetic strips that you can put on there as well. Last year we used here. So these are obviously just attached to the wall. The reason they're in different places is that last year the sim was actually at a different angle. So if I ask Sal to just give us a bit of a wider shot of this, I don't know if you can see, but the rig itself, and if you look kind of where these grey boxes are in relation to the shelf, it is kind of twisted a bit. And so the angle of the rig is now a lot more diagonal, whereas it was quite straight. And for that reason, when I'm sat in my rig here and we want to see the Crosscar Challenge over my shoulder, we can't actually see those. So yeah, so that's the start of our look outside the rig at the 4X Annex. And you'll see bits of artwork around here. If you're a petrol head, a lot of this will appeal to you. So we have Ian Cook there. So you guys might know Ian from Pop Bang Colour. He gave me this. I used to own a white Lotus Exige, so he gave me that, which is really nice of him. And then the other side of my reserve wheel is artwork from Cami Sturch. So Cami from Go For The Gap, you'll know her as Cami Racing on YouTube. She used to race for Fordzilla, so she designed or created that Nigel Mansell thing there. We see Lewis Hamilton and his McLaren underneath that as well. And we kind of skipped over this extra wheel rim. So why have I got a wheel rim there that I haven't mentioned? Well, this is a combined rim and wheelbase from Thrustmaster. This is the TSPC Racer with a Ferrari wheel rim on it. It doesn't show the Ferrari badge because I've stuck my sticker over it. But that's what I originally used to use for sim racing. When I didn't have my full rig, I just had a play seat. And I used my normal PC, but that actually got me up to a 3.2k I rating. And since having my big rig, my good rig, I haven't actually got anywhere near that. So that's interesting. Above that, you'll see medals. So, you know, not so much anymore, but over the last 10 years, I've collected a lot of medals, marathons, that kind of thing. But you're not interested in that. You're car people, aren't you? So if we spin around, we'll see other bits and bobs. Before, actually, one last thing to point out, just before we leave the rig itself, with these cables coming out of the USB rig, you guys might be interested. You'll see these clips every now and again. These are really handy. So these are just cable clips that you can get off eBay that fit into, if we move down a bit, they're dotted about every now and again, that are just kind of there to hold the cables together into the aluminium profile rig. There's one there. And if we follow this round this way, and then up here, you'll see there's another cable. Well, now what's this cable doing? Because it seems to go into the chair. Why would Damien have a cable going into the chair? Well, the reason for that is that if I want an extra webcam, like this is my old webcam, I could put it on a tripod and mount it around here and then show you guys what I see over my shoulder. So I have a tripod to hand as well. So you can't really see that because it's just in its bag. But if I want that, that's there. And then around here, you may notice, of course, we have the lighting, which is currently color coded to whatever I want it to be. So this is my colors, but I can change that. For example, if I do this, look, I could change it in theory, so that goes all the way around the rig. But we'll keep it where it should be for Damien Cross Racing, which is about there. But yeah, so then, right, moving on through the rig, through the room. Let's have a look, see what's next on our list. Speaker keeps falling off. We have, what have we got next? Yeah, the Cross Car Challenge. Oh, you have a big bike. I like to call this the most aerodynamic Aston Martin in the world, but also the slowest Aston Martin in the world. So this is a triathlon bike, or just a time trial bike. So it's got all the bells and whistles on it. It's mounted on the wall because I don't really get much time to ride it anymore. But yeah, incredible bike. As well as that, coming down, we have some trophies from go-karting. We have some coasters with different racetracks on, dotted around. So a couple of tracks you'll know there. If we go down, let's have a look at what's on our shelves down here. So we have back there, look there. Where did your sim racing start? Atari, pole position. I don't actually have an Atari console, but I've got that just in case. And we have a couple of cars here. So this is a Hillman Minx. I own a Hillman Minx, similar to that. Cream egg car, and various other bits and bobs down there as well. But some of that's work stuff, so I won't worry too much about that. We'll come over here and we'll have a look at some nice artwork again, and some more bits and bobs down here. So we have our router down here, for example. We have, next to that, a couple of cars. So this is an old red Scirocco, and over this side we have another Hillman Minx, painted in those particular colours. The reason I've got those two cars is that I actually own those two cars. So if I can find an image, I'll quickly pop that up now. We have just, yeah, your usual books on here. Damon Hill, Mika Hakkinen, Guy Martin, that kind of stuff. Next to Mika himself, who I used to really support in the day. And then coming up this shelf here, more books about cars, me cycling. That is actually me, apparently. That's the charity event that I started. That's me wearing the outfit from that, so that's kind of cool. A Lotus Elise, I used to have I had an Elise and an Exige at one point. McLarens, we've got Coulthard's helmet there, so here's the McLaren. And then above that we have a signed David Coulthard thing. So I got this back in 1998 when McLaren were really dominant. Sally's trying not to get a reflector. That's me there. For some reason they also felt the need to stick McHacken on there. I don't know why they did that, but never mind. We have here a bit of art from Jake Yoroth. So Jake, you may know Jake from Twitter. So this is obviously an Audi R8, fantastic bit of art there. And coming down here, this is where I work day to day. So I'm not going to show you too much of this. But what we can show you is this pen holder. I love this. I'll take them out. And this is actually based on a V8 engine and it's signed by Dave Clark Design, the person who made it. And talking of bespoke artwork, actually I'm going to take you guys around here. You might appreciate this as we move past the dog. We have a coffee table here. 10, as you guys will know, is my race number and this is my race colour. But if we come under here, Sal, you can actually see that this is based on, this is a race winning brake disc from a McLaren GT3 car, which is really cool. So Bromog Design made this for me, made a coffee table out of an old race winning brake disc, which is really, really cool. As well as that, up here we have a clock. Clocks don't sound very exciting, but this one's kind of cool. So you see this at the start of a lot of my videos. It's coming up to 12 o'clock, nearly midday now, so we're going to get some food in a bit. The dog's going to start whinging. I can see my reflection. Hey, it's my face. And Sally's hand. Just about to see her face. So there's that as well. And if Sal spins round, we can see familiar face. Look at him concentrating. Look at him trying not to crash. So we see familiar face there. So I have a TV up there, which is when I'm working, I tend to have you guys on in the background. So like John 74, Russell Bright, Dave Cam, Matt Malone, Dan Suzuki, Dan Swinbank, all you guys, Fleming, of course, Baruch. I'll be there forever trying to listen to them all. So you're on in the background when I'm working, and then down here we have tea and coffee making facilities, including some more artwork there. Again, this was a guy on Twitter, I can't remember who he was, but he's one of my followers on Twitter, so that was really cool. And then finally we have Wi-Fi passwords, and then a quick shelf here, we've got my old karting boots, for example, which I haven't worn in about 10 years and probably don't fit anymore. We have more books. Again, we have a book about 1950s cars and the 80s, because of course we have the Hillman Minx and the Scirocco, and there's a stylish cushion in the shape of the Scirocco. That's kind of cool. So I had to buy it. You can't not buy that, can you? And of course I've got my boots here that you'll see iRacing. But I think that kind of covers everything. Oh, quickly here, we've got next to David Coulthard, we have this cool spotlight as well. We have a cool old camera up here on top of some books about Formula 1 and racing and classic cars. Plants dotted about as well, because you got to kind of keep it natural. I like to keep it natural, but this really is, for me, for somewhere to work as well as play. It's a really nice space. I don't live here. I live in a house which is about 25 meters down the other end of the gardens, but this is the 4X Annex. This was built especially for me by my brother-in-law, so that's really, really cool. And if I get Sal to stand just over here, we can have a look at the overall view here. Put the shelf back. Put that shelf back. You can see that this is obviously, it's a bit of an L shape, and we've actually, in that bit there, we've got a shed. So it's really handy for the garden as well, where we keep tools and things like that in it. But then, here we go. So here we are in the 4X Annex. Hopefully it's answered a few of your questions about what I use, what this place is about, what's dotted around, and then when you're watching my videos in the future and you see a quick clip of Jake Yorov's Audi, for example, or the Scirocco, then you know what it's all about. But if you have any more questions, if you want to see anything else, or you want to know specs about anything else, feel free to ask. Give the video a like as well if you haven't done so already, because I really appreciate seeing what you guys like to see. Leave your comments about what you think about my setup, whether you change things yourself or whether this has helped you to decide what you want to do. And if you haven't already subscribed, please subscribe and you actually see me racing when my foot's working properly. And apologies for the clacking of the dog as well. She's just ready for her food now, so we're going to go feed her now. So give her a like as well before you leave, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.